I'll give you a second to do that. Good morning, everybody. I don't know if people who are online can hear us, and I'm not sure if we can hear you. If you're attending remotely and want to just speak up so that we know we can or cannot hear you, please do so now.
Hi, I can hear you. This is Catherine McGill.
Hi, Catherine. Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for that.
Good.
I can turn it down. Pardon? Turn it down. It's too loud. I can't hear you. Sorry. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Thank you, everybody. This is the, where are we, June special meeting for bicycle, pedestrian and traffic safety in Portola Valley. Well, because we have an alternate date to our regular schedule. That's the only thing. That's a very good question. I'm going to come on to that. Oh dear. Would you like to do this again? You were very good, actually. Thank you, Pat. Oh dear. The meeting is, it says it's already being recorded. I think that's automatic. So when I hit that, it says it's already being recorded. Okay, it should be. Yes, and it came up with a message. Already being recorded. Transcript. Ooh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Those are notes. That's. Yeah, fabulous.
Right. Action item for Pat Bannon. Sorry. All right. Enough jollity. Okay. Call to order and roll.
Just a quick comment. I'm having a very hard time hearing people.
Okay. Yeah. Will the other committee members please turn on their microphones? Thank you.
Yes, please.
Testing. Hello. Can you hear
That's
me?
great. Great.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. Call to order and roll call. I'm Ed Holland, Chair.
Kevin Welch.
Angela Hay.
Pat Bainan.
And I think before we go any further, I would like to announce this is the time for oral communications. We did lose a committee member, Caroline Vertongen, resigned from a committee shortly after the last meeting. That brings me on to two things. One, thank you, Caroline, for joining PPTS. And I know you did a lot of work on safe routes and some other things to support us. We're sorry to lose you. You were a useful resource for our committee. So it also brings me on to the fact that she was acting secretary at the time. And so I'd like to ask somebody to step up to be secretary for the meeting. It can't be me because I'm chair. I tried that once. Not very easy to juggle. Is anybody willing to be secretary, please?
We need more members.
We do need more members. There's a call to go out. We do not see any hands up. So how are we going to produce the minutes? Just use the transcript. Can somebody?
You discovered at the last meeting that the transcripts, it'll take the notes.
Okay, if somebody could send that, find that and send it to me. Would somebody take that action, please? I don't know how to do it.
It lands where the June, it goes to an email address and I'm not sure whose email address.
Okay, Taylor can find it for me. Okay, I'll contact them.
Follow up with the town clerk.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Pat. That brings me on. Are there any other oral communications or items that are not on our agenda today? Anybody else have anything? People in the schoolhouse, people online. I see a hand up from Rita. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, we can't see anyone in the schoolhouse. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi, but
No, Rita, unfortunately the cameras are not working, although we can actually hear and converse with you, which is an improvement from yesterday.
okay. All right. Thanks for letting me know.
Thank you.
And I really hope that the sheriff is on and part of the agenda today with their report.
They are not.
Ah,
And we have not received a report in the last month. Okay, do I see any further hands up? Or on to our first item?
Oh, I have one other thing to say.
Kevin, go ahead, please.
I want to thank John Badger for putting on the Palooza. It was a great event. We had very few challenges, and we'll straighten those up next year. And I want also to thank John for telling us that we've done a good job with our community.
Yeah, thank you. There was some appreciation going around. There is an appreciation for volunteers on the 16th, I think at 6 p.m. here at Town Centre. And I'd like to thank the other committee members as well that were involved all day in some way or another. So thank you for that. It did make it a safe and fun event for everybody, along with all the other volunteers from Palooza. So thank you for that. Moving on, that would be item 3, which is approval.
I have a comment.
Christy, go ahead, please, very quickly.
Yes, previously the staff from Portola Valley would call the sheriff to remind him. I'm just wondering if someone from this committee called the sheriff to remind him about the meeting, since it changed to Fridays from another day.
That's a good point, thank you. I had been doing that in past and it slipped my mind. So I'll stick that on my calendar for a reminder 2 weeks out. Okay, so item 3 would be approval of the minutes from our May 7th meeting. I think they are a true and accurate record of the meeting. Thanks again to Pat for chairing. I propose that we accept those minutes as written, unless anyone has any corrections or observations.
I second that.
All in favor?
So we'll hold a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes
Yes.
for the official
Yes.
record? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 4 would be our sheriff's report. Do not see Officer Taylor. I know he was out on injury leave and they were not able to assign anybody as a replacement for him, or have not done so.
I have a question. Anybody on our board here in the audience, who is the interim sheriff? I know yesterday the board of supervisors voted 5-0 in favor of eliminating the sheriff. And apparently there's a new sheriff that's an acting or interim. Anybody know who that is?
Well, the only person we've had contact with is Captain Frank Del Porto. Might be something on the website for the sheriff. Oh, thank you. In which case we have no data and no information and no representative. I think we just skip over and move to our Public Works update. I'm not sure where we are with that. I know from listening into the EPC conversations yesterday. You have a comment, Pat? No.
I do.
Yes. No, that's by no means completed, is it? There'll be an appeal and then there'll be presumably, yeah. Yes. No, there's very likely to be a challenge, a court case, and lots more drama before we. Yes. Public Works update is where we were at.
Well, I want to thank Robert for getting the rapid beaks put in that fast. I was shocked. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, yeah, we haven't met you, Robert Burt.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't know who you were. Thank you very much. Yes. No, we do really appreciate the move to action straight out of the gate there on in your job. Very happy to see what's been done. So thank you again for that. Yep, I think that's.
They look really good. Right.
So when can we plan the next ones? Okay. Excellent. Tabletop crossings?
Tabletop.
No, absolutely not. Terrible for bikes. No, it's worth discussing.
Yeah,
So,
we can discuss that. Because there's a difference between speed bumps and speed
Humps.
humps. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
We kind of
Well,
investigate
no,
that.
that's an interesting discussion point in relation perhaps to school crossings in slower neighborhoods. So yeah, absolutely. in, 25-mile-an-hour zone, and things like that.
Mhm.
On main corridors, perhaps less so, but I think, let's talk about it. Something we can put on the agenda. So do you have anything else to report for us? I know I was moving on to discussion they had at EPC yesterday in relation to adding signage for our emergency radio station and some other emergency information in town as you approach the boundary.
Yeah, just so everyone else can hear. Can you guys hear me okay? So no huge updates. There have been a few requests for additional signage relative to slow children at play that have come up. We're currently working on road resurfacing. We're slightly behind schedule on that just because of my start date. So the biggest thing right now is to look into road resurfacing to get some of the roads refinished for additional safety for bikes and whatnot, that travel along roads. There is discussion of where to put additional signage for emergency evacuation. Right now, we're looking at main intersections into areas that would be locations of evacuation or gathering during a evacuation event. Main corridors, we're trying to keep signage fairly reduced. Usually when you do see signs for emergency evacuation and egress, the radio signs, they're pretty small. You can see them on the way to Tahoe and whatnot. They're fairly minor. And we're hoping to place those near other signs, but not at locations where there is a huge amount of sign density to try to reduce their impact, but still make sure we don't get a location where there's 20 signs, which would be aesthetically not pleasing.
Right.
No other real updates overall. I think everything's really good. Moving forward, we're looking at identifying several new crossings that are at risk, not at risk, but that are more prone to accidents overall. Sheriff's report would help with that. Just identify where we can have the most impact and future improvements to make our community even better. So that'd be something if the committee has any input on. I'd love to hear.
Absolutely.
Over the
Thank you.
next
Yeah,
several months. Yeah.
so that would be an action for us to identify. Yeah, and part of that is what we're looking at with the local roadway safety plan. But that doesn't mean that we're bound to just those places.
I have a question for you, Robert. We have a smart trailer we bought about 10 years ago. And we try to implement it on our roads, especially Alpine and Portola, as much as possible. Last year, we only put it out 30 days because of difficulties with the technology and so forth. Do we have a budget for that? I would like to have 4 main heavy-duty lithium batteries put in that trailer, as well as maybe a new charging unit and a solar
Yeah,
panel
it,
as well.
It has three problems right now. One is its charger is broken, so we can't recharge the batteries that are in it. 2, it only runs for a fairly short amount of time before the batteries are exhausted, and the solar panel is not sufficient to recharge the batteries to compensate for its energy consumption. So upgrading that or looking at if there's another problem that's leading to that is something that it's going to require some budget to rectify it.
Yeah, our budget's fairly limited for this coming year. We could probably seek grant funding or additional sources to repair that. That's something we could potentially gain additional budget for from various grant funding. Can we put that on an agenda item for you guys to follow up with me and give me that list of
Absolutely, yeah.
deficiencies? Because
Thank
if
you.
we've got existing infrastructure, we should certainly maintain it, repair it, and
Yeah.
put it in good working order.
And I think until then, I can configure some sort of limp mode for it.
Yeah, but if you guys can follow up with an email or something that basically describes your issues you're
Certainly,
having,
yeah.
then I've got something in writing that I can act off of. I'd love that. That's probably going to be delayed till slightly after road resurfacing, just because we're already running behind on road resurfacing. But yes, 100%. Additionally, I remember last meeting you guys mentioned that there was an existing, it's an existing sign that flashes slow when pedestrians are driving. Or when vehicles are driving too fast near the rapid rectangular
Oh,
flashing
that is an
beacons.
Priory.
advanced warning light for the Priory Brookside towards Madeira crossing. That is just a static flashing with a warning slow children ahead.
Yeah, it's a yellow warning sign. They've been out in Portola Valley probably since 1975, about that area. There's one on the northbound traffic on Portola and one on the southbound traffic. They're both there, but they haven't been
Not
used
operational.
probably since about 1995, somewhere around that neighborhood.
Okay, I'll follow up because I tried to find and locate where those were because you mentioned that they were in disrepair a little bit.
Yeah, you can't miss them. They're still there.
Okay, I might follow up with you on email to make sure I identify their location
Sure,
to see if I
right.
can look into those.
Take a ride and show you where they are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That's great. Great to see we're off to a new good start with our town engineer. It's a constructive relationship with the committee, and I think that's excellent. So thank you for being here. I think that concludes Public Works update, except for we do have a lingering item with a council approval for extending parking restrictions on Portola Road related to Windy Hill access. And so that's something, again, I think probably best I fill you in on the background with that, and then we go forward on that. Anybody else have anything else for Robert?
Robert, we're writing our LRSP, okay, which is our local road safety plan. And we're well on the way to it. And that will have a list of priorities for all the things that we have to do. Mr. Krupke, who was our consultant, actually has a list of things that we haven't actually done yet. So there's those things to add. There's also, I just done a survey and have had 33 replies just overnight, okay, with people who, so we've got some priorities there. So in this plan, I'd like to bring you into it so that we can prioritize things that need to be done in Portola Valley. And then if they're in the plan, we're much more likely to get a grant because one of the check boxes is, do you have it in a plan?
Thank you, Angela. That's a good outline. Turn it up. Okay, I don't think I can adjust microphones directly.
You're not speaking into it. It's got to be straight opposite your mouth.
I don't want to be online.
And, and I have been struggling mightily to hear you.
Okay, technology just does not hear me. It's a thing. Okay, is that better? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have my hand raised too.
One quick comment, Christy, and I'd like to move on.
Okay, regarding the sheriff and where the hotspots are, isn't there a draft CCAG report that we were given that shows the accidents on our main roads? I just hope that Robert can get a hold of that and look at that. And I have a copy if we can't get it to him. But it will be, since the sheriff's not here, it's a visual map with dots on it for Portola Road and Alpine Road where the accidents have occurred over the years. I'm just hoping
I'll
he can
answer
get a
it.
hold
I'll
of it.
answer it.
Christy, I'm sorry, we're
I'll answer it. We have pulled numerous maps, okay, from the TIMS study. And so actually, Pat has the map of where accidents have been from 2013 to 2024. And so we know where the accidents have been. We have the maps. They will be part of our local roads, say, street plan.
And it's no surprise as far as, you know, the corners that are obvious problems of Rastradero and Alpine Road, especially with the Alpine Inn becoming so popular, continues to become a bigger problem area. So, you know, that one is big. The one that was the surprise was Westridge and Cervantes. We hadn't expected more accidents there. I mean, that was quite a surprise. All these things are in our report. Angela has been pulling very current information. We are far more advanced as far as our maps and accident reports than it seems the sheriff department is right now because we're really current. So we're ready to take on these questions as far as being able to target our particular intersections that we, based on data, want to choose to work with. So, Chris, we've been waiting a long time to make progress on this report, but, things are really happening and that will make a big difference as far as the progress that we make in the near
Yeah.
future.
Thank you, Pat. I think that makes a great segue into our next item, which is the.
Okay, and Ed, my hand is up. Rita.
Rita, sorry. Go ahead, please. very
Sorry,
quickly.
just a quick comment. About a week and a half ago, there were about 60 cars parked, on Arrastradero. I guess people, maybe they were going to Alpine Inn or maybe they were going for a walk. But there was one bold person that was parked on the corner in the grass on the corner of Alpine and Arrastradero. And,
Wow, that's a
it-
ticket waiting to happen.
it's beyond that, I mentioned it to someone and they said, well, there's no sign there saying that the person couldn't park. And, what can we do as a town or something, or if we can have a chat with the sheriff's department to say, hey, you guys aren't taking care of what's happening on Arrastradero, but please take care of this. I know we don't have any signage. These are mostly people that do not live in our community, but I thought that was pretty egregious. Whatever we can do to push it one little
Right.
step more, thank you.
Can
Thank
I
you,
take
Rita.
that one?
Yes, please.
I really think, and I have done this, if you're out there and someone is that egregious as far as where they're parking, call 911, have the police come out and give them a ticket.
You know I
Or-
did.
That's exactly what you want to do and get the word out that that's what people are doing.
Yeah.
They're being proactive.
And for Arrastradero, you need to call CHP, the 707 number.
So let's get that word out there because,
Yes.
we could take it on as citizens to get more patrols coming out here. So,
I'll forward the numbers to Ed.
yes.
Thank
Oh,
you,
I
Rita.
will say there was also a traffic jam on Sunday night. I had to go down Arrastradero and I chose not to because there were 3 cars into Alpine Road blocking the way into Arrastradero.
Yep.
And I had to go down to 280 down Alpine because I could not turn into Arrastradero.
I also had problems with that intersection. I waited 10 minutes for one person to turn left from Arrestero Road onto Alpine Road because of the traffic coming into that particular corridor. It's horrendous, believe me. And I'm sure you agree with us.
I think we've all witnessed this at some time or other. It's what the long-term solution is difficult to understand, although Angela I would say roundabout. Okay, moving on to our ongoing committee business, and the first item of section 6 is 6A, which is finalization of the priority intersection locations to be included in the Portola Valley Local Roadway Safety Plan. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a CCAG initiative to collect all the regional authorities' safety plans so that they can collate or represent the group as a whole when we're looking for grant funding for the county.
That is true. It's actually a national initiative.
It is, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it
and-
draws in things like Vision Zero and some other national initiatives which are aimed at improving road safety for all users. So I had added on the agenda some suggested proposed locations. These are by no means finalized. They are just there for suggestion and discussion. And I know, thank you both to Pat and to Angela for looking at traffic and incident data. That's also highlighted some other areas of interest. So perhaps you'd like to go ahead and discuss those because I think you're more aware and more knowledgeable than
Yeah.
am I for
Yeah.
beginning this discussion. So go ahead, please.
So I pulled a report that I sent to Rebecca of the top 10 accident locations. The thing is, the way the accident locations are made is you can be 200 foot from the actual junction, and it may be nothing to do with the junction. So it sometimes gets done, but it's roughly these places. I don't know if we need to actually, but we could vote on these locations. I mean, they're fine, but I think Alpine and Portola Road actually has more accidents at that corner. Historically, I mean, there are two things we could do. We could look at where there've been historic accidents and say, this is the list of where the top accidents have been, and just take the top 3. And we have that list. And I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's very easy to pull. And we can pull it from 2013 to the present time. Okay?
Yeah, I think,
So we have that list, and we could take the top 3 off that. We could also look a little bit more carefully and see whether there are other considerations like Alpine and Arastradero, Alpine and Portola Road. You've got the school crossing there and a lot of people there at a lot of time of day. And you've got a complex situation with the
yeah,
shops.
I mean, we don't think
So
we just want to prioritize by frequency of accident. You also don't want to take into account the severity of it in terms of injury and risk to
and where
to
people
individuals.
congregate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the situation with the Alpine Portola Road intersection, that is going to be changing so much with the impact of the Hawthorne.
Yes, it will.
So,
And we don't know how yet.
right, so it might be that we don't want to have a huge focus on that because of the changes that are going to occur anyway. It's going to be so studied. So maybe we take 3 other ones so that we can have a greater impact, because that intersection is going to,
Yeah, we may have to deal with that as its
Yeah,
own project.
as a single line item.
I think that's a good proposal. Do we have an agreement across the committee?
I agree. But I'd like to go back to Estradero and Alpine just for a second. It's current. And I think it's going to get worse because of graduation. You have all Stanford coming up here, and I wonder if there's anything we can do, now, call the sheriff in San Mateo County and Santa Clara County and tell them to be
Just
aware of that.
to
particular
make
intersection.
them aware. I mean, unfortunately, the links that we had, Mary Hofty, you and I, as police commissioners and representative from the council, did have a good link with the former police captain, and that went away as soon as the soap opera at the Ontario County Sheriff's broke, in the last year. And so we've lost the ability to gain some focus at the top level of the police department.
Right.
One thing we need to do is reestablish that.
I agree.
Um,
I know one thing we've done, we put a sign up there on Golden Oak, which
Mhm.
made a big difference.
Well, it's
Well-
alleged that we didn't put that sign there, but that's something
The
for another
sign's
day.
there.
The sign is there.
Yeah. And the whole idea is that we can stop any accident from happening right now in that particular corridor. I think it'd be great for the community.
Agreed. But the main focus here, and I think it should not take us too long, is to look at what are our 3 chosen intersections to put into our local roadway safety
Yeah.
plan. That's our main focus.
Yeah.
Well done.
And I think Arastradero and Alpine is
Yep.
a good one. Do we have agreement across the committee?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
number one.
Westridge and Portola, we know is risky for, particularly for bicycle accidents. So,
Westridge and Portola is above Willowbrook and Portola. It says Willowbrook and Portola.
This is
Willowbrook. Willowbrook.
that is my error.
Yeah,
it-
Willowbrook.
We went Westridge and Portola.
I was
yeah.
probably typing in the dark. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, please strike that for the record and replace Willowbrook and Portola with Westridge and Portola Road, which we know is a focus point.
Right.
And I would
Fine.
still say Alpine and Los Trancos.
Like this.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
With fast traveling left turn traffic into Los Trancos and people exiting at certain times of day, not easily seeing cycles coming
Yeah.
rapidly
Yeah,
down the
so
hill.
Yeah, that low visibility, it really affects the it's a very dangerous
Yeah.
intersection. And adding the beacon is good and bad because it does, I think it's living there. It's slowing down traffic a little bit because there's a new thing to look at.
Yes, yes.
Hey, Pat, being a bicyclist and Angela, and I'm the only non-bicyclist in the panel, by the way. I'd rather drive a horse. Question for you. How do we slow the bicyclists down coming down in that corridor? Because they go right through that flashing yellow.
We have a list of names on Strava. We know who's the fastest people going down. We have their names.
I'm not on Strava.
No, but and there's probably something against Strava's terms and conditions. I don't know, but I mean, we know who those people are.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the same thing, what happens in the cycling community and is the same thing that happens in the
Microphones, please.
I've tried, my mouth is like on top of the microphone, so I'll try to talk louder. I think that the enforcement is the same with cars as it is with bikes. If a cyclist would actually get a speeding ticket, the word would go out like
Yeah.
wildfire
Yep.
to the community that, oh my gosh, they're giving out tickets.
And the same with stop
and
sign
slows
violations.
people down. It's just amazing how that works.
Okay. Before we go
Okay.
further on to officially selecting those 3 locations, I'd like to just put that out to, I did see a couple of hands up from the online crowd. Does anyone have a comment on our 3 suggested priority intersections for the local roadway safety plan? And that would be Westridge and Portola, Alpine Road and Los Trancos, and Westridge and Portola,
Okay.
Arrastradero and Alpine and Los Trancos. I see a couple of hands up. Leslie, go ahead, please.
Hi. Regarding the locations for priority intersections and the previous conversation, I'd just like to intertwine the two for a second. Yesterday, I live in the ranch, so I come down Alpine all the time. At the intersection at Alpine and Portola Road was an officer, and he was watching all the traffic. I saw a bunch of bikes blow by him, like through the intersection at a high speed and just kind of go by him. And there was no reaction, and I was wondering about that. Do they not think that they should enforce the laws among bikes, or do bikes have a free pass, or could we talk to the sheriff about, as long as they're sitting at that corner, they could ticket a few bikers too? Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Christy, you have a hand up?
Yes, I was wondering if we could see the list of 10 intersections. I agree with your top 3. I guess my question might be Westridge and Portola Road, close to the location where the mountain lion was killed. I would like to see, or at least verbally hear, the list of 10. Since the sheriff is not here, if you could attach it to your next agenda, then we all will know what your list of 10 is. So we
Okay.
can select the top 3. Thanks.
Certainly I can do that, but I can read them out to you now. Thank you, Rebecca. You just handed me a list. So that would be Alpine Road and Arrastradero, Portola and Westridge, Alpine and Los Trancos, Alpine and Portola Road, Portola Road and Stonegate, Alpine and Golden Oak Drive, Alpine Road and Westridge, Corte Madera and Portola Road, Alpine and Firethorn and Hillbrook Drive, and Cervantes and Mapache Drive at Westridge.
Can we add a number 4, being Portola Road and Westridge. I mean, I feel like 3 were missing pretty major ones. And we were
What's-
top 5.
What's your what is your criteria for adding them?
Well, that we don't only have 3 top
Yeah,
locations.
we don't need to have just 3. If we had 4 or 5, that actually would be good, because if we were applying for an improvement and a grant on number 4 and it said, do you have this in your report? It would be useful.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, can we put 10?
Should we just expand that to 5 and run with the ball? Is there any harm in doing that?
It doesn't have to be the top 3. It's our plan.
All right.
Yeah, if we can get grants for more.
So, you know, it's sort of easier to do 3 than 5 in some
Yes,
sense.
but it doesn't mean they're
But it
excluded
does-
from any.
It doesn't mean they're
consideration.
excluded, no.
All right, okay. Well, as written, my agenda is to select 3 locations, so I think we should stick to that.
Yeah.
With the correction. Westridge.
With the correction on Westridge.
Can I say something about Golden Oak going into Alpine Swim and Tennis? The cars that are going straight into the parking lot from Golden Oak have hit 2 bikes because they look left or they look right, left, and they go straight. They don't look right again. And there's a biker going really fast down.
Yes.
So how can we put at the bottom of Golden Oak, maybe not to go straight? I don't know.
I don't know how we deal with that
It's
specifically.
biker risk. It's biker risk.
Yeah.
And, you know, a wise biker will think ahead and look for things like that. But some people are prepared to take the risk, and there's nothing we can do about people who are taking risks.
And there's also a level of bicycle education that is a component that we can always continue to do outreach for, because
Absolutely.
things keep changing and not everyone knows they're changed. The last time the roads were painted, the cycling lane, the shoulder actually got wider and the traffic lanes got narrower. And people don't necessarily know that happened. They're just feeling the difference when they're driving. So there's just education that we can be offering on our end to help people understand why the road is different and give cyclists the understanding that they can ride in the middle of the bike lane now. There's a lot more space on that shoulder.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we have our task to do too, as far as education.
Thank you, Pat. I do want to stay focused on this one
Yeah.
last thing. So can we move to our, I'm going to make a proposal that we accept Arrastradero and Alpine Roads,
I second that.
Westridge Road and Portola Road, and Alpine Road and Los Trancos Road as our 3 priority intersections.
Yeah.
With the possible inclusion of a 4th as you write the document.
Well, I don't think we need to vote for the rest. We can just say those are the top 3.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a whole lot more in the report. If we vote on every paragraph,
No,
we're going to be-
Yeah, my vote says we vote for 3.
we
Top
vote for 3.
priorities,
Our
which
top
which
priorities,
is a
yes.
key part of the LSRP, but
Right.
doesn't exclude adding other.
Right,
other-
right.
Is Alpine and Portola in that list?
It is currently not.
I think that's major and it needs to be, I think.
Which one?
Alpine and Portola.
I mean, that's where Hawthorne's is putting a parking lot.
Consideration there is that we do have school children crossing every single day, and so
By accident.
Alpine and
major.
Portola is where I saw the police officer watching the bikes go by.
Absolutely. Let's make sure that one, let's just change it to 4 and put
No,
in-
no,
No,
no, because there are there are other priorities and we can't vote on every single priority. So let's just say we've got the top 3,
perfect.
you know.
I don't understand why the number 1 accident place would not be on the list.
all right.
That kind of ignores the back end of Portola Valley.
We will have that in the report anyway, so wait till the report comes out and you can review it.
We're certainly not ignorant of all those other issues. We just have to pick three for this one specific task. It does not mean we're ignoring anything else.
Well, we're gonna need grants for that area, I think.
Thank you. Let's go through the chair, please. So I propose that we accept those three aforementioned intersections. I don't think I need to read them out again, and I'll probably get them wrong anyway.
I
So-
second that.
so I second that. And do we have a show of hands for accepting those three intersections as our priorities for the local roadway safety plan?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried by all committee members. Thank you very much. Right, Rebecca, I'm sorry, I think we have enough time to get this all through. I don't know if I can. Let me just introduce this. So item 6B on our ongoing or new business actually, which is Rebecca has introduced to us the desire to designate Alpine Road Scenic Corridor in a more official way. I know there is some scenic corridor on Alpine Road, but I don't know if that's officially designated, but people talk about it all the time. But this is to make an application to ABAG, the Association of Bay Area Governments, to make a formal designation of sections of Alpine Road as scenic corridor. I can't make you a presenter, I think, unless you join the meeting. Oh. Oh, wait a minute. There you are.
Make her a co-host.
I'm working on
You
it.
make her a co-host.
Make Rebecca turn the
Oh,
co-host.
I can share. It's
Okay,
just-
we can't hear anybody talking.
We're
Thank
just
you.
babbling. Can you? All right, yep, I do appreciate that, but chiming in does derail the meeting. Thank you very much. We're doing our best here.
So it's showing up now.
Okay, I have
Okay.
made Rebecca a co-host. Can people online see this presentation?
Yes.
They can't.
Good, yeah, it's just the cameras that are not working, but the other broadcast is operational. Okay, thank you. Rebecca, go ahead, please.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Yes.
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 So thank you for allowing me to come before you. So I've been working with Catherine McGill over in the Conservation Committee to designate the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor as a priority conservation area. And just to talk a little bit about what a priority conservation area is, these are designated geographic areas that are identified to support the Bay Area's regional conservation, resilience, and sustainability objectives. They are regionally significant areas to be protected and improved. PCAs are nominated by local governments with land use authority, such as Portola Valley. And PCAs are identified by a specific geography based on eligibility maps. And there's 5 different types of PCAs: natural land, working land, urban greening, recreation, and climate adaptation. The climate adaptation type can only be used in conjunction with one of the other 4. ABAG has created the eligibility maps. So they've gone over the entire Bay Area. ABAG is the Association of Bay Area Governments, so it includes, I think there's 9 counties from the North Bay down to Santa Clara County. They have created the maps and they've determined which parts throughout the Bay Area correspond with each of these different areas. So there's certain areas that's natural land. There's agricultural areas that are called working land. Urban greening is pretty self-explanatory. It's mainly kind of parks within cities. And then recreation is a pretty broad category that mainly includes trails and bike paths, as well as parks, playing fields, that sort of thing. So why nominate a PCA? It's an opportunity to elevate our local conservation priorities into the regional planning framework and become a part of that regional conservation framework. As you asked, the Alpine Scenic Corridor title is a purely Portola Valley designation. It's in our general plan. It's in our municipal code. It has created certain land use rules. So if you have a home that's within that corridor, you have that 75-foot setback that you have to comply with when you build a home. It has nothing to do currently with the whole Bay Area. So this would allow our Alpine Scenic Corridor to become part of a broader network. The big key thing for Portola Valley is once that area becomes designated for as a PCA, we can then apply for PCA grants. And that would allow us to fund local projects that advance Bay Area conservation priorities. And it will also provide the opportunity to improve the linkages between various open space preserves within and adjacent to Portola Valley. And I'll show you on the map on the next slide what those are. And then it provides another level of recognition for the importance of the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor and the importance that it plays in protecting wildlife habitats, wildlife corridors, creek sheds, and floodplains. Here you can see the actual map. It's actually 127 acres, hard to believe, but it goes from the border with Ladera all the way along Alpine Road, along both sides. It follows initially the Los Trancos Creek, and then it comes in as the road comes in, it flows along Hawthorns. It then includes the Frog Pond Park. It bends around the corner and ends at Willowbrook, where it ends at Coal Mine Ridge and Windy Hill Preserve. So you can see on the map, the big green shades are actually PCAs, priority conservation areas, that have already been designated by other organizations. So you can see that big arrow, that's Rastradero Park. Hawthorns is the piece right next to the road, as I mentioned. And then it's ending at Coal Mine Ridge and Windy Hill open space preserves. Those have already been designated by Mid-Penn, got those designated, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah.
So it includes, our PCA would include the Alpine Trail and the Dwight Crowder Memorial Trail. It will link to trails on Coal Mine Ridge and Windy Hill open space, as well as numerous other trails along Alpine Road that abut onto Alpine Road. It also includes the 3 playing fields for community and recreation, the Ford Field, Rosati's, and the Corte Madera soccer field. And so this is a little bit more information about how the PCA designation leads to PCA grant awards. The grants support project activities inside or providing access to the priority conservation area. PCA grants in partnership with California State Coastal Conservancy funding have invested over $38 million into PCAs since 2013. $8 million available through the One Bay Area grant round. I think that's actually from 2024, but I'm not sure exactly what the exact number is for 2025, but it will be something similar, I believe. And these are just potential projects that we've kind of thrown out there. We could do that. We might be able to apply for a grant, whether it was habitat restoration for the Frog Pond open space, strengthening the habitat and trail linkages between the open spaces along Alpine Road, improving our bike trails and our bike pathways along that way, along the road, and then possibly even applying to create a plan to study a potential trail linkage from the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor over to the Rastradero Preserve. If you remember from the path, there's actually the scenic corridor is actually relatively close. So it would be nice if we could create some kind of linkage there. So what are the next steps? So I've been giving this presentation for quite a while, so we were actually making progress on some of these steps. We identified the PCA nomination, we identified the PCA geography, and that I have to thank Catherine for going into the complex GIS mapping to map it out. And we submitted by May 2nd. We have started this is our final presentation to engage the local community. We've spoken to Trails and Paths, and they've approved the designation. We've spoken to the Conservation Committee. They have approved the designation, and now we're presenting to the Bicycle Pedestrian Traffic Safety Committee, and I'm hoping you will also approve the designation. Once we're through this, we're tentatively scheduled for the June 11th presentation if there's available time. Otherwise, the presentation will be finalized in July. ABAG has extended its deadline to July, so, but I'm hoping to have it done next week. And then once we submit that approval by our town council, it will go over to ABAG for executive board action. Will be integrated into the PCAs for the entire Bay Area Plan 2050 implementation plan. And then we will be eligible to submit grant applications for PCA's grant round 2, part of OBAG, which is One Bay Area grant, I guess. So that was my short little presentation, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. If I may take chair's privilege and ask one question, I think may lead people to have some confusion, is that the council recently voted on making some potential zoning changes in an area that overlaps with this application. And so how do those two things play together?
So PCA designation has no authority whatsoever on local zoning authority. It doesn't have any impact whatsoever. All it does is integrate an area that we as a local community feel is important to preserve and protect. And it does not impact at all zoning changes.
Yeah, but there is I at least have a perception that there's a conflict in those two things. Now, personally, I'd be delighted by that because I'd like to see those areas preserved. But which one wins out of those two?
It doesn't prevent development within the Alpine roads.
All right,
and
thank you for being clear. Okay. I'll open the floor up to other questions.
Yeah,
I am delighted you're doing this, Rebecca, because I actually wanted to do it when we did the frog pond study and we were trying to save the frog pond. And so I think it's a very, very worthwhile thing to be done.
Thank you.
I'm also for that, but I don't understand when it has to do with traffic safety. I understand conservation, as the Conservation Committee, the Trails Committee.
It's nothing to do with traffic safety. It has more to do with bike paths. So it's the bike
Bike-
side of your very long committee
Yeah.
title. It's purely to be able to get funding for
Be
bike, for
incorporated
improving
for the
bike paths.
bicycles.
That does fall more under trails and paths, but we do obviously intersect with those things, I think. But I think if you're also looking to just get a general community consensus and including the committees in that, then thank you for bringing it to us. And I do think it's a good initiative. So.
It's a wonderful thing to see. Thank you so much for doing this. And these are the types of grants that we've been looking for, you know, as far as the community and what makes Portola Valley special and unique. This is right up our alley.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do I have any comments from attendees online? No. Okay, I do not see any hands up. Thank you very much again, Rebecca. I do think, our council liaison, Rachel.
So I appreciate Councilmember Flynn for doing this,
Oh.
but I am concerned because our current zoning allows parking within that 75-foot setback, right? Like the Willows Common, right? You now have parking lots. Alpine Inn, you have that parking lot. Alpine Hills, parking lot, right? We have lots of surface parking
Yeah.
on this that's allowed.
And potentially Hawthorns.
And a huge parking lot potentially from Hawthorne's, exactly. So, so we need to think about this corridor and whether we want it to be full of parking lots, right? And, because, you know, that's 1950 zoning, right? That is not pedestrian and bicycle friendly to just have cars zooming into parking lots. And also, so I just wanted to mention that. That's something I've been quite concerned about. I also am concerned about a PCA area. Those are generally, obviously I support bike paths, but priority conservation areas are not generally for roadways, has been my experience. So I just wanted to mention that and to think about the parking lot issue that I'm seeing on Alpine Road with that 75-foot setback. And, you know, what many cities are now doing is undergrounding parking to keep, you know, so that you don't see, you know, so that it makes it more amenable It's much more expensive for developers. Usually, to underground a parking spot is about $75,000 per spot. But this is all something that, the gray area of policymaking that I would like for this committee to be considering as they talk about that corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. One comment, Angela?
There's another risk with these things, and that's surveying it exactly. It sort of comes to what Helen was saying, that to know exactly where the edge of the road is and where the edge of the rural area is, we need to have very good maps with the exact, you don't want someone to move the boundary fence another 10 feet or something. We need to know exactly where the boundaries lie.
So anytime you are doing any type of development, a survey is required, and that's when when lot lines. And there are certain surveyors that are excellent at that, other surveyors are not. But you always need to do that for any type of development, and it's required. But there's a huge cost. You can't just say like, hey, we need this survey done, right? It's a huge cost. Like I just had 2 flat as a pancake parcels done for my job, in small parcels, maybe 5 or 10,000 square feet each, so 20,000 square feet total, which is 44,000 square feet is an acre. So maybe half an acre. It was more probably quarter of an acre, and it was $10,000, right? So it's expensive to do that.
So is it filed with the county already, what the edge of Alpine Road is?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said, is it filed with the county what the edge of Alpine Road really is, where it really ends? Do we have, does the town have good?
So-
GIS, yeah.
So here's, generally and Robert could speak to this, I believe. Generally, there's a public right of way from the center line. And I actually was poking around looking in GIS we have a huge public right of way already along Alpine Road, but Robert, if you want to speak to that to clarify, I can't remember the distances. Yeah.
Can I chime in on this? Because I think we're getting off of we're getting too far afield. Remember, this is only for the purposes of applying for grants. I've spoken to to the ABAG people specifically about how precise the map has to be. And, for the purposes of applying for grants, they don't care how precise it is. So they're not going to demand that we have a survey that says that this part of the trail is within the PCA and this part is is outside of the PCA.
Okay.
That is not the goal of this at all. So I just wanted to clarify
Thank you,
that.
Catherine.
Yeah,
That-
thank
that's an
you,
important point.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. You're absolutely right. Grants do not need those surveys.
That's absolutely right, yeah.
So I think
Thank you.
in trying to wrap this up, and I like the initiative very much. My only other question is there any immediate financial impact to the town in making this application, apart from the clerical work that it would require?
No negative impact. It's only positive, really.
Okay, clears things up.
Why wouldn't we add Portola Road as well whilst we're about it? Because that's also a scenic corridor.
Because it was actually a tremendous amount of work on the part of both, particularly Catherine's, but also mine, in terms of just getting the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor completed and mapped out and figured out, because the GIS software is pretty complex very unfriendly, and it was just a lot of
I'm
work.
well
But
aware with, I get the newsletter from
we
the
started
GIS
out
people,
with the
yeah.
idea of doing the whole thing, and it
Yeah.
became
Yeah.
too much. But it doesn't prevent us, this is kind of more of a test trial to get this done, and then we can move forward and start, putting Portola Road as well in a future plan. But at this point, we've submitted the Alpine Road Scenic Corridor
Yes.
for the May 2nd deadline.
Okay,
So
well,
Very
I think
good.
that looks like we have as much information as we could have at the moment to make a decision on this as a committee. And it's really just a kind of a general indication of support and approval.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to our, the later stages of this item, which would be to, a motion to approve the
I
proposal.
don't think you've taken public on this.
I second it.
Okay, and a show of hands, for a vote to approve this as a recommendation from BPTS.
We have our hands up. We were not called on.
Christy, if you are trying to say something, you're extremely muffled.
She has her
I'm
hand up.
trying to, can you hear me now?
That's better.
Better, yes.
Okay, great. No, I think this is a great project and I want to thank both of you for working on this. I do believe that Portola Road eventually needs to be a part of the PCA. And that is part of our town and one of our main roads. So I hope that's a goal in the future. But is there a reason that we wouldn't put our creeks if part of a PCA is creeks? I know we're doing this for biking, but the bike trail is along the creek.
I think that's a great question for the Conservation Committee. Thank you, Christy. Okay, I think that means we have a motion approved and a vote unanimous from the committee. Yes, thank you, Rebecca.
And would you mind just sending a little blurb to the town just to say that you've approved it in advance of the
Yeah, who
notes
should I
of-
send that to town clerk or to copy you and
that Copy
Helen?
me and maybe Mark Linder.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
That
an
was
action
great. Thank you.
action item for me, yes. We are running a little over time. I don't know if we want to carry on with the discussion, item 6C on event planning, but that's a little bit nebulous. In terms of,
When's the town picnic?
that's a good question. When is the town? Do we have a date for that yet?
I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling because of the budget constraints, we may not have one unless we get
Okay,
donations.
too bad.
It would typically be.
Would that
September.
also impact Zots to Tots?
That's the same
How much
date.
money does it?
Usually they run together.
Yeah.
We're paying for the
1,000.
3,000,
30.
30,000.
30,000.
Yeah, I don't know what it costs us to run Zots to Tots, but that's generally.
Robert,
But
what
if
was
there's
your
nothing,
comment?
if there's nothing at the end of it, then there's almost no point.
Robert had
I
a
mean,
comment
By
on
the end of the
pic-
month, you'll have it, we'll know.
Okay, thank
Actually,
you.
maybe next week.
Right.
The police presence is probably one of the more expensive line items.
Not
for
to us.
Zots.
That's included in our contract.
That's
That is not,
part of that
it's
$2
not a
million.
discrete expense, which is one of the nice things about it.
Yeah, it shouldn't cost much to run Zot to Tots. And people can pay for the food. We could get the food trucks.
Anyway. Okay, so stand by for a decision on the town picnic. All right. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Robert.
I did want to mention that's something that's budget free for that I don't see Portola Valley utilizing. Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition does do manage bicycle corrals and parking at big events to help. And they do it as volunteers. So something for, for us to take advantage of for.
We've always supplied bike parking and we're Angela.
Well, yeah, we have a sign that's our corral and we
Yeah.
even
We-
got a logo.
we
So
do.
the bike committee has done it, but it is, I mean, we could call the bike coalition.
Yeah,
We've
we could-
also used the sheriff's department to do a bike rodeo for free on the Christchurch car park.
Yeah, which I appreciate. I just wanted to remind us of the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition that they will bring in bike corrals
Yep.
and manage them.
It'd be nice to work
That
together on
does all
that,
this
actually.
stuff.
We could
Got all
work,
that equipment. We got that covered. But thank you. It's
Yes.
true.
although we could collaborate, and I think that might be a nice.
If we
nice way
get
to do
them
it.
to come out, then we'll get more attention too with cyclists. So that's a good thing.
Okay, I think I'd like
Good
to,
idea, yeah.
moving along, I don't, was anyone remaining on the committee still involved with Safe Routes to School? I know Caroline took that on. as a
I can
fellow
tell you a
one, but-
little bit about Safe Routes to School. At the county bike committee for CCAG, which reviews the grants that we give out for bicycle improvements. We had a presentation from the person who runs State Routes safe routes to school at our last meeting. It's online somewhere under, I think, Bicycle Committee, if you went under CCAG or something like that. And she's got a new assistant whose job is to outreach to schools. And my question was, who drives safe routes to school? Is it the Public Works Director or is it the school? Okay, and it actually depends on the project as to whether the school is a person. So I actually told them they should reach out to Corte Madera School because they want to do more reach out to schools, and they haven't reached out to ours because we're just a little town.
Yeah, they should talk to Portola Valley School District.
So a couple of things about safe routes to school. First of all, thank you. They do work closely with the school districts. We did have 4 coordinators in the county. Teresa, I forget her last name, is the primary coordinator. We
Yeah.
have 1 person on the coast. The other 2 young women were Ameriprise fellows, and they were just laid off.
Oh no, oh
Like
no.
that. Right? So out of 4 positions for the county, we lost 50% of the positions.
no,
So
Okay?
Teresa still knows, so Teresa
is
gave the
still-
talk.
Right, exactly. So Teresa is still there, and then the coast has 1 specific person who's actually embedded in the schools. So in the school district, I'm also your school district liaison. So we do have, they have had 1 or 2 assemblies, and then they got like vests and flags from the Safe Routes funding. So the school district does work with our Safe Routes to School coordinators at the county level.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
There's more action there than we'd anticipated or
Exactly.
we're aware of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
we'd
yeah,
love
yeah.
to be involved and help in some way, but keeping that link alive has been the difficult thing.
Right. And they're, getting grants, the Safe Routes to School, if we had, like Half Moon Bay got money from the federal Safe Routes to School grants last year for a connector little alley that would be like Georgia Lane connector, but we don't want, that connector is great as it is, right? But if you guys know of a connector that might need attention, please bring it up, bubble it up.
There was talking of making a better access to the newly restored crossing at Portola Road and Priory for kids coming along down Corte Madera Road. There's, to add a little bit of trail there and some better pedestrian access from that direction to the crosswalk.
So, so you're saying on Corte Madera Street, or are you saying Alpine Road area to that crosswalk?
We discussed
The
previously.
it was the Corte Madera end that's on Portola where
On
it comes
Portola.
down at a very bad angle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a terrible intersection there. So, yeah. I'm not sure about space constraints. That's more of an engineering question.
Yeah.
Um,
Howard looked at it and thought that he had some space to pop something in there at one point.
So Robert, you guys need.
We could talk.
We can talk and we can put it in our plan for a complete street.
Great, yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Helen.
I just wanted to add as a CCAG board member that I also heard that presentation because they gave the same thing from Teresa Velez to the entire board. And grants to the Safe Routes for School can come from anywhere. They don't just have to come from the schools. They can come from Public Works. They can come from
Oh, interesting.
residents. Can
I was
bubble
not
them
aware
up.
of that.
They can come, I mean, I could envision them coming to you and then you would then bubble them up over to Public Works and then Public Works would then,
Oh,
then
that could- that
apply.
could
Well,
be fruit-
yeah, she
that-
said
that
it
could be
depends
fruitful.
on the project. If it's something to do with Public Works, that's one thing. If it's something to do with the school, education,
Oh,
that's a different kind of
Right.
Yeah,
thing.
but if we're looking
So,
for
so,
In terms of
so it
the-
depends on the kind of grant as to whether.
crosswalk equipment or something like that, then maybe that, that's a possibility.
road safety, I mean, they gave examples of curbs, creating better curbs, kind of curb bump outs and stuff,
Yeah.
and restriping at the schools so that when cars drive in to drop off, it's safer. I know as when I had small kids at Corte Madera, the backup was always such a pain. And just to me, a simple solution would be just to have the traffic go out the fire lane,
It would. We've talked about that a lot.
that sort of thing.
and, yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think that completes all the items we have. Well, we do have alternative transport infrastructure there, but I think, do you have anything? I think Pat and Angela, you would just, that subcommittee, but nothing to report this month?
On our subcommittee of writing the LRSP, Pat and I had 2 hours on Zoom, and the report, what the part we have to do now is to put in things that we're going to do. So we've got short-term phase things to do, longer-term phase things to do. So that's what we're working on. And we should have a draft by the end of next week?
We're targeting the end of next week. Angela started a survey and we're getting
33
really-
replies so far, so we've got priorities. I will tell you that police involvement in the town is probably number 1 of what people want to see for road safety. It's way out there. And the second one, I think, is escaping Portola Valley in a fire.
So that's good information to know.
We have incredible
And-
data, and I'm incredibly pleased that at the last minute, people are actually answering our survey. And I would like to do a couple of pop-up events on the planning at the library. So I
that's a good
think we'll
idea.
do those, and we'll just do it like we were supposed to have. This plan was supposed to start in the beginning of 2023, and then there was supposed to be lots of outreach to people. And the 2 outreach sessions in Portola Valley were cancelled, and I went to the Woodside one instead. Okay, and we can mimic that.
There's quite a back history there, but because I didn't get a chance to say this earlier on when we were having the main discussion on this, but I do want to thank everybody, particularly Angela and you, Pat, for taking this on and working hard on getting more information and doing the writing tasks and all of those things, because it's made a big difference to the report that was sort of rubber stamp presented to us by CCAG, and I think we've come up with something that's far better than that and far more meaningful to the town. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think on that, unless we have any further matters arising, I think, Kevin, you might have had one thing you wanted to say, and then we'll call the meeting to a close.
I'm just concerned about, we've had apparently some attempted burglaries in the town. And I would like to know how the sheriff is pursuing these particular attempts with our cameras and so forth. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah. Question for the sheriff, I guess.
The other thing for the town is to get this system working.
Oh, the system. Well, it's good because then I don't appear on YouTube, so I'm fine with that. Joke. All right. Thank you
I
very
think
much.
you need to vote on the date, right?
Oh, we do need to vote on a date. So our next regularly scheduled meeting would fall on July 4th, which I think we all know is
Oh,
not going to
no.
happen. So I propose a 1 week postponement, which would take us to July 11th.
That's a Wednesday. Is it? Oh,
Did-
oh,
did I- did I
we
get
have to
that wrong?
vote on whether it's a Friday or
Well, for the
not.
4 7 days, be 11th.
Stand by. I'm
If the
terrible with
4th is a
calendars.
Friday,
Then it's a Friday, okay.
Could be, yeah,
I-
that's right. I thought I got
Because
that
we've
right.
got 2 challenges. I thought in our charter it said we meet on a Wednesday. Did we ever get that changed?
We were allowed a grace period of deviated times, but I think eventually, I think after 3 months, we have to request the charter be changed.
Shouldn't we be doing that too?
it's later.
I can add that to the agenda
Yeah, I think we should.
for the next
Yeah.
meeting.
I don't think we're going to have this as a temporary thing. I think it's always going to be Friday.
Unless you want to kick me off, which, you know.
No, it's okay. July 11th is the 4th, so our July 11th is a Friday, so let's just get to
So
voting on that. and
propose
saying yes,
July
it's a-
11th as our next
yeah,
meeting
it's a
date.
Friday, good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. Thank you. Our next meeting will be July 11th, the Friday at 8:15 a.m. Thank you very much, everybody. I declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.